Let's take some of the most recognizable car logos on the planet and turn them into horror. We're starting with this one. First, I'll reshape the mouth to make it look more sinister. I'll give her an arm and shape it like it's about to lunge at something. Then I'll bring in a set of sharp teeth because the mouth needs to bite, which obviously is because she's hungry and she needs to eat. Following that, I'll give the arm long and sharp claws. Next, I'll add new points and sharp edges to the wings so they feel dangerous instead of elegant. I'll scatter some particles around the whole scene before adding blood to everything. Into the mouth first, then the fingers, and finally some coming from the wings. I told you it needed sharp teeth to eat, she just ate spaghetti. I'll be impressed if anyone actually knows which logo this is. I'm guessing it'll go over most of your heads, but let me know in the comments if you're the exception. Anyways, here's the horror version of the logo you're about to comment. The next logo is Mazda. So I'll draw my own horn shapes because the second I look at this thing I thought that this already is a devil. All it needs is horns. I'll make everything red and add shading to both the horns and the logo body to give everything a round, three-dimensional feel. Following that, I'll blend the horns into the logo so they look like one piece. I'll add extra shading behind the horns specifically so it looks like they have real weight, like they're sitting on the logo. I'll add a cracked texture to the whole thing, but I dropped the opacity a little because it's just too in your face. Then I'll add some texture to the horns, draw in some eyes, and put a glow on top of them. It's barely visible, but just enough to feel alive. One more pass on the shading to make it more prominent, so here's the horror version of Mazda. We still have Lamborghini and Maserati at the end, but next up is Alfa Romeo. I'll start by drawing a snake head completely from scratch because this current shape is just not horrific enough. Once the snake head looks right, I'll drop it into the logo and get rid of the 3 dots from the original because they're in my way. They're probably useful for something, but for this horrific event, they gotta go. I'll make sure the snake's body follows the same curve as the rest of the shape, so it looks like it's coiled inside of the design. Following that, I'll add some highlights to the snake to give it more dimension. Now, I need a person. I'll grab an image of a guy cheering with his hands up, but I'm only using his silhouette. Not the face, not the expression, I basically just need the story. I'll place him inside the snake's mouth and use puppet warp to pull his legs inward, so gravity actually makes sense. Like he's being swallowed. I'll bring one of his arms down too, because if you're being held sideways and dragged into a snake's mouth, one arm is not staying up. I'll paint a white line on the hand that's touching the snake so you can still tell it's a hand against the dark silhouette. Next, one of the legs gets separated from the body. That leg is gone. I'll hang it at the bottom of the ellipse like it just fell, and then I'll tear up the edges. I need irregular, jagged shapes, like teeth were involved. I'll draw a bone into it. Now, who would have thought you can turn a cheering guy into an anaconda's victim? Now, if you don't want this snake to show up outside of your window tonight, don't forget to like and subscribe. Then I'll add blood along the upper leg first to make it look like it's dripping down. Blood from the dangling leg on the snake's lips, more blood underneath that, and finally blood across the teeth. Here is Alfa Romeo, just not with the snake who's still hungry. Unless you don't like and subscribe. Next up is BMW. So I'll grab some ninja stars and embed them directly into an arm, like they were thrown at close range and stuck. Then I'll bring that arm in and place it right at the center of the logo. I'll cut away parts of each star that go under the skin because you shouldn't be able to see the full star shape outside of the arm. I'll add a line above each entry point to make it clear that these things are actually going in there. I still can't get over certain things I have to say in these videos. Following that, I clear out the blue section inside the BMW logo because those spots are being replaced by the arm and the stars now. And then I'll start adding blood to the scene, and I wanted it to feel natural, like it's dripping off the arm. I'll also desaturate the arm because straight out of the source image it looks too alive. I'll add metal textures to the blade of each star and push the 3D shading so they read as actual physical objects. The corners are too rounded on the original, so I'll sharpen every tip, because we're not caressing the arm here. I'll add a drop shadow under each one so it looks like they're hovering slightly above the logo but still lodged into the arm. Then I'll go heavy on the blood. On the stars, across the arm, and spatters everywhere. Whoever designed this logo did not see this coming, so here's the horror version of BMW. Next up is Lamborghini. I'll go to Envato Elements and pull several photos of a real bull from different angles because the logo has a very specific perspective and I need pieces that can actually match it. I'll start cutting sections out of different photos and building the bull piece by piece. Body and the back first, then the legs, basically one at a time. This whole process, I'm turning into a quick montage. Once the body is built, I'll grab a cow bone and duplicate it 4 times. I'll use puppet warp with each bone to match the angle of the bull's back, so they look like they're arching over it naturally. Then I'll carve out the wound on the back. I'll break up the edge so the flesh looks loose and torn. I'll shade into it and add dark tissue inside. Then the blood goes in next to make it feel raw. I'll use a stringy light texture across the body to add more damage on top of everything, as if the bull hasn't suffered enough yet. Then blood spatters, and then we go to the skull. I'll swap out the bull's head and replace it with a skull. Shade it to match the rest of the body and start adding blood dripping off of it, like it's pooling underneath. The blood reads a little too saturated, so I'll pull it back with a hue and saturation adjustment layer to make it look older and heavier. Then I'll drop the whole thing back into the emblem, and this is where it got complicated. The bull is black, the emblem background is also black. I'll trace the inside of the shield, add a layered texture behind it, and bring in some light on the background to push the bull forward. I'll be honest, this part gave me trouble, and if I wanted my monitor to see another day, I had to accept and move on. So here's the horror version of Lamborghini. The bull's still in there, just not all of it. Now the next logo, Maserati. First, I'll trace every individual shape in the original and rebuild it from scratch. Every bar, every tip, and every piece. Once I have the shapes, I'll shade each one to look like the actual metal. Once everything looks metal, I'll bring in a red metal panel and add it to the weapon design. I clone stamp out a screw that's sitting in the wrong place. Then I took a step back and saw there was too much red, so I added 2 red bars and 2 remain black. Now the red reads as an accent instead of taking over. I've got an image of 3 guys standing next to each other. The idea is to have the metal spikes come from behind their heads. Really, I'm not even going to explain what's happening here because holy f***. I light up the spike to the first guy and use puppet warp to fit his neck against the metal, so his body wraps around it naturally. Then I'll cut away parts of his neck, like whoever did this had absolutely no idea what they were doing. I'll add some blood on the metal coming out of his mouth, and let's just say we have to add a lot of it and I'm too lazy to keep saying where I'm adding it, so enjoy a quick montage. For the second guy, I learned from the first one and I'll start with a puppet warp before anything else. Once he's in position, I'll mask away parts of his face so the metal reads as coming from behind, through and out of the front. More blood on the metal, more cuts on the neck, more shadows underneath to ground him, and then blood spatters to close the whole scene out. And here is the horror version of Maserati. Let me know which one was your favorite in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, you might like this one too.